Welcome back to the Timeless Tales Library, where the world outside fades and a new story begins. I'm Theodore, your host, and tonight I'll be sharing a soothing tale to ease your mind and guide you gently towards sleep. The Timeless Tales Library is made possible by listeners like you. If you found comfort here, please subscribe and help us continue creating these peaceful stories. As you settle in, comment below and let me know where you are in the world tonight, and share a place you dream of a story taking you to. Perhaps the dusty aisles of an old bookstore, the quiet corners of a coastal lighthouse, a snow-blanketed cabin, or a silent star-filled desert. Your ideas keep our little library glowing bright. This story is about a magical bakery on a stormy Halloween evening, where beloved literary characters from timeless tales find shelter, savor enchanted treats, and share gentle moments of connection, all wrapped in the cozy embrace of a warm, welcoming haven designed to lull the listener into peaceful slumber. Now exhale slowly and imagine yourself unspooling any worries or thoughts. Like threads of a tangled knot, you are in the silken archives, a silent, smooth-walled room of the Timeless Tales Library. Here, the books are not bound in leather or cloth, but in fine, soft silk. Each page is a weightless layer, and the stories within are as light as a whisper. Feel the cool, smooth touch of silk against your skin as you settle into your bed, your own private cocoon in these archives. Relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, and let your hands rest gently by your side. Let your mind unspool and untangle, becoming as smooth and calm as the pages of a silken book. The stories of the archives are like a comforting blanket. Let them wrap around you, soft and weightless. A cozy rainy day witch's bakery, a Halloween evening. The autumn evening had unfolded like the pages of an old, well-loved book, its chapters filled with the crisp rustle of turning leaves and the distant call of migrating birds. But as twilight deepened into night, a gentle storm began to weave its way through the enchanted neighborhood, its arrival announced by a soft sigh of wind that carried the scent of damp earth and spiced cider from far-off hearths. It was Halloween, that whimsical hour when shadows grew playful rather than frightening, and the air hummed with the subtle magic of jack-o'-lanterns flickering on porches and children's laughter echoing faintly through the mist. Nestled at the quiet intersection of Whispering Willow Lane and Moonlit Meadow Road stood the Rainy Day Witch's Bakery, a beacon of golden light that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat, drawing in the weary and the wandering like moths to a flame that promised no burn, only balm. The bakery's exterior was a poem in wood and stone, its facade weathered by countless rainy days, yet softened by climbing vines of ivy that glowed with an inner luminescence, as if each leaf held a captured firefly. The sign above the door, a whimsical carving of a witch's hat from which tendrils of painted steam rose from an imaginary cauldron, creaked softly in the breeze, its edges smoothed by years of gentle touch. Rain began to patter against the slate roof, a rhythm as steady and reassuring as a mother's heartbeat, falling in silver sheets that blurred the world beyond the mullioned windows. Those windows, framed in dark oak, etched with faint runes of protection and peace, fogged from the warmth inside, offering teasing glimpses of the cozy world within, shadows of flickering lanterns, the occasional spark from a hearth, and the silhouette of a figure moving with unhurried grace. Stepping through the door was like slipping into a dream where time stretched languidly, unhurried by the clock's tick. The interior of the Rainy Day Witch's bakery enveloped visitors in a symphony of comforts, each element crafted to soothe the soul. The air was heavy with layered scents that unfolded slowly, like a story revealing its secrets chapter by chapter. The warm, nutty embrace of freshly ground cinnamon blending with the creamy richness of vanilla pods split open just that morning. The subtle earthiness of nutmeg grated fine over rising dough, and beneath it all, the zesty comfort of bread baking slow in the oven, its crust promising a crackle that echoed the distant thunder. Mingled with these were hints of the storm outside, the clean ozone-tinged freshness of rain mingling with the faint, loamy whisper of wet cobblestones carried in on a draught. The walls, painted in pumpkin-to-twilight blues, absorbed sound, muffling the rain into a lullaby. Shelves sagged under the weight of enchanted ingredients, glowing sugar crystals, herb bundles that puffed lavender, and tinkling sprinkles. Mismatched tables, each a scarred or smoothed relic, dotted the floor. Around them sat deep, welcoming armchairs in faded maple leaf velvet. In the corner, a grand stone fireplace murmured, its apple-scented flames casting gentle, wavering shadows. Overhead, iron lanterns diffused light into pools of amber and gold on the creaking oak floorboards. Woven through the room was the soundscape of serenity, the rain's persistent tattoo, the low hum of the oven radiating heat, and the sigh of steam from a kettle, promising herbal infusions. At the epicenter of this haven was the Rainy Day Witch, a figure whose very presence seemed to quiet the storm's edge. She was not the cackling sorceress of cautionary tales, but a gentle guardian of small magics. Her silver-streaked hair caught in a loose bun that allowed tendrils to escape like wisps of fog, framing a face lined with the soft creases of countless smiles. Her eyes, the colour of storm clouds just before they break, held a depth that suggested she had seen worlds beyond the bakery's walls, perhaps danced with stars or whispered to the wind, but she kept such stories tucked away like recipes in a hidden drawer. Her apron, flour-dusted and patched in places, bore faint stains from berries long since baked into pies, and around her neck hung a locket that pulsed faintly with inner light, said to hold a drop of moonlight captured on a solstice eve. She moved with the unhurried rhythm of someone who knew that true magic bloomed in patience. Her hands, strong yet nimble, veined like the roots of an ancient tree, kneading dough with a reverence that bordered on ritual. Subtle spells wove through her fingers as she worked, invisible threads that infused each creation with intention, a pinch of calm here, a breath of belonging there. On this particular Halloween evening, as the veil between ordinary and extraordinary thinned to gossamer, the witch had outdone herself in preparations. The long oak counter, scarred from years of rolling pins and chopping boards, now gleamed under a bounty of seasonal delights, each one a homage to the night's playful spookiness. There were witches' hat cupcakes, petite towers of chocolate sponge capped with fondant cones swirled in emerald frosting that tasted of mint-kissed forests. adorned with licorice twig broomsticks so delicate they seemed poised to whisk away on the next gust. Beside them sat cauldron cookies, deep earthenware-hued rounds cracked open to reveal bubbling cores of dark chocolate ganache flecked with orange zest, their edges crisp and yielding to a satisfying snap. Ghostly meringue puffs floated in trays like ethereal spectres, whipped to peaks of airy white, baked until just crisp outside and dissolving into vanilla-laced mist on the tongue, leaving a faint, haunting afterglow of rose and elderflower. And for those craving heartier solace, pumpkin spice scones rose in golden mounds, their surfaces etched with leaf patterns and glazed with the syrup that evoked the spice-laden air of harvest moons, their interiors studded with pecans toasted to buttery perfection, and swirls of spiced cream that melted into warmth with every bite. Each treat was more than sustenance. It was an elixir for the spirit, designed to wrap around memories of adventure and transform them into pillows for the soul. The witch paused in her labours, wiping her hands on her apron as she gazed out the fogged window. The storm had settled into its full, comforting cadence now, rain sheeting down in veils that turned the street lamps into blurred halos. Thunder rolled lazily in the distance, not with menace, but with the rumble of a great beast settling for sleep. She sensed them coming, the wanderers from tales etched in ink and imagination, drawn by the bakery's unspoken invitation. On nights like this, her domain became a crossroads of stories, a place where characters from disparate worlds converged not in conflict, but in quiet communion. With a soft hum, a melody old as the hills, wordless and weaving, she returned to her work, ready to offer exactly what each heart would seek, not grand enchantments, but the profound magic of warmth, a listening ear, and a treat that tasted like home. The door's brass bell tinkled first like the chime of a distant clock striking midnight, a sound so soft it might have been imagined amid the rain's hush. In stepped Alice, from Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, her arrival as curious and unannounced as a white rabbit glancing at his pocket watch. The hem of her blue pinafore dress, starched once but now softened by the damp, brushed against the threshold, and her sturdy boots left faint muddy imprints that the witch would later whisk away with a wave. Raindrops clung to her golden curls like dewdrops on a dandelion, and she paused to shake them free. Her movements precise yet whimsical, as if cataloguing the sensation for later pondering. In her apron pocket, secured with a safety pin, nestled her cherished trinkets. A tiny brass key that unlocked doors to nowhere, a shard of looking-glass that sometimes reflected not her face, but fleeting glimpses of other realms. Her eyes, wide and sea blue, scanned the room with that trademark blend of bewilderment and delight, as if the bakery were a new chapter in an ever-unfolding tale. "Oh dear, what a peculiar sort of storm this is," Alice murmured to herself, her voice a light lilt that danced over the rain's drone, carrying the faint echo of Oxfordshire meadows in its cadence. She closed the door behind her with a gentle click, sealing out the chill, and inhaled deeply, her shoulders relaxing as the bakery's scents enveloped her. I've navigated teacups that grew legs and croquet games with flamingos for mallets, but tumbling into a place that smells like all the best secrets of the world, well, that's a riddle worth savouring. She wandered toward the counter, her gaze alighting on the jars of twinkling sprinkles, pausing to tilt her head at one that shifted from sapphire to emerald. Do you suppose they change colours to match one's mood? Mine's a bit stormy blue at the edges, but warming to honey gold already. The rainy day witch turned from her oven, where a fresh tray of skeins cooled on a wire rack, their steam rising in lazy spirals that carried notes of clove and allspice. Her smile was a quiet crescent, inviting without demand. She nodded as if Alice's words were the most natural observation in the world. Without haste, she selected a plate from beneath the counter, a simple earthenware one painted with faded rabbits hopping through hedgerows, and arranged upon it 2 curious cauldron cookies. These were petite masterpieces, moulded in the shape of simmering pots with handles of twisted dough, their surfaces glazed in a shimmering black that cracked to reveal rivers of caramel that swirled through shades of azure, verdant green, and molten gold, mirroring the kaleidoscope of Alice's wonderland. The filling was warm, not scorching, infused with a subtle spell of fluidity that made each bite a gentle surprise, the sweetness tempered by a whisper of sea salt to ground the whimsy. Beside the plate, she set a mug of chamomile tea, its surface blooming with dried blossoms that unfurled like water lilies, the steam laced with a hint of dreamweed, harmless herb that quieted racing thoughts without dulling their spark. Alice accepted the offering with a curtsy that was half formal, half playful, her fingers brushing the witches in a fleeting touch that felt like the brush of butterfly wings. How very kind! It's as if you knew I was pondering the impossibility of a storm that rains upward. She carried her treasures to a window seat, a nook cushioned with pillows embroidered in threads of silver and blue, where the rain painted abstract portraits on the glass just inches from her nose. Sinking into the softness, she arranged her skirts with care, then lifted the cookie to the light, watching the caramel shift hues within. The first bite was a revelation. The shell yielded with a soft crunch, giving way to the liquid warmth that coated her tongue, evoking memories of mad tea parties where time looped in lazy circles and worries dissolved like sugar in endless cups. A sigh escaped her, long and unhurried, as the flavours worked their subtle magic, transforming her boundless curiosity from a whirlwind into a gentle breeze. She sipped the tea next, its floral notes blooming on her palate, the steam curling up to warm her cheeks and fog her lashes. Outside, lightning flickered like a camera's flash in a forgotten photograph, illuminating the rain-slicked street for a heartbeat before the bakery's glow reclaimed the scene. Alice's thoughts wandered softly now, tracing the rivulets on the window, her earlier haste forgotten in the embrace of the moment. time in the bakery flowed like honey from a tilted spoon, slow, golden, inevitable. The rain's patter varied, sometimes a whisper against the panes, other times a fuller chorus that rattled the ivy outside, but always a companionable backdrop. The fireplace embers settled deeper, their heat radiating in concentric waves that chased any lingering damp from the air. It was perhaps a half hour later, though clocks held little sway here, when the door yielded again, admitting a draught scented with the clean sharpness of prairie winds cut by autumn chill. Dorothy Gale, from L. Frank Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, crossed the threshold with the unassuming grace of someone who had learned that home was less a place than a feeling. Her gingham dress, checkered in faded blue and white, clung slightly where rain had beaded on its cotton weave, and her braids, usually neat as cornrows, hung loose with strands frizzing in the humidity. In her arms she cradled a wicker basket lined with calico, containing a folded blanket patterned with yellow sunflowers, the one Toto favoured for naps under the Kansas sky. Her ruby slippers, scuffed from roads of brick and poppy fields, peeked from beneath her hem, their sequins dulled but still catching the firelight in faint nostalgic glimmers. Dorothy paused just inside, her hazel eyes sweeping the room with a mix of wariness and wonder, as if assessing whether this haven might whisk her away to yet another uncharted land. The storm had stirred echoes of her cyclone-tossed journey, that fateful twister that had uprooted her from the grey flatlands into a technicolor dream, only to leave her yearning for the simplicity of cyclone cellars and Auntie M's voice calling through the dust. "Well, I'll be," she said softly, her voice threaded with the warm drawl of the heartland, as she set down her basket and unbuttoned her damp cardigan. A body could wander far in weather like this and not find a friendlier spot. It's got that feel, you know, like the kitchen back on the farm after a long day's chores, warm and waiting, no questions asked. Her gaze fell on Alice, who looked up from her window perch with a welcoming tilt of the head, and Dorothy's lips curved in a shy smile. "Evening, miss. Mind if I join you by the stove? The rain's putting on quite the show out there, like all the worries of the world washing clean." The witch, who had been folding a linen cloth over a rising loaf, observed this with the quiet attunement of one who read hearts as easily as recipes. She glided to the counter, her steps silent on the floorboards, and prepared Dorothy's welcome with the precision of an old friend. Onto a plate of robin's egg blue porcelain, she placed a single homeward pumpkin scone, its dome golden and inviting, dusted with a fine veil of cinnamon sugar that clung like morning mist. Shaped subtly like a gambrel-roofed farmhouse, complete with chimney swirls of piped icing, the scone's interior revealed itself in tender layers upon breaking, moist crumb flecked with pureed pumpkin, and tart apple compote simmered with cinnamon sticks and star anise, evoking the spice-scented air of harvest suppers and the comfort of four walls against the wind. Accompanying it was a mug of hot cider, mulled slow over the fire with whole cloves that bobbed like tiny buoys, a sliver of orange peel and a drop of enchantment that summoned the phantom scent of fresh mown hay and distant laughter. The steam rose in fragrant clouds, carrying promises of hearth and kin. Dorothy accepted the plate with a murmured, "Much obliged," her calloused fingers brushing the warm ceramic as she made her way to the armchair nearest the fire, its arm worn smooth from countless occupants. She draped her cardigan over the back to dry, then eased into the seat, the cushion sighing beneath her like an old mattress on the farm. Unfolding the scone, she inhaled its aroma, eyes closing briefly as memories surfaced unbidden. The crunch of gravel under boots on the yellow road, the scarecrow's lopsided grin, the Tin Man's oiled joints creaking in rhythm to their march. But here, in the bakery's glow, those recollections softened, their edges gilded by gratitude rather than longing. The first bite was heaven in humble form, the crust flaking away to yield the spiced, fruity heart, each chew releasing bursts of warmth that spread from her chest outward, melting the storm's chill like butter on hot cornbread. "My stars, this tastes like Aunt Em's kitchen on apple butter day," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion that was joy, not sorrow. Sipping the cider, she felt the cloves bite give way to sweetness, the liquid coating her throat in liquid comfort, easing the subtle ache of wanderlust into a peaceful ache of contentment. Alice, ever the conversationalist, leaned forward from her nook, her cookie half-eaten and forgotten on its plate. "It's marvellous, isn't it? The way a simple bite can unlock doors we didn't know were locked. Tell me, if you could wish for any road to lead you somewhere right now, where would it be?" Dorothy chuckled softly, the sound like wind chimes in a breeze, and launched into a gentle recounting of her Oz Odyssey. The Emerald City's spires piercing clouds like green spears, the cowardly lion's rumbling purr as he napped by the fire. Alice interjected with questions that were less probes than invitations. And did the poppies sing lullabies as they bloomed? Their dialogue flowed like a lazy river, meandering through shared absurdities, the Cheshire Cat's vanishing grins paralleling the wizard's balloon escape, punctuated by pauses where they simply listened to the rain, its cadence syncing with their slowing breaths. The witch watched from afar, her hands busy with a mortar and pestle, grinding lavender buds that released their calming perfume, content in the knowledge that her space was fulfilling its timeless role. As the clock, if one dared consult it, neared the hour when jack-o'-lanterns burned lowest, the storm's intensity waned to a persistent drizzle, the thunder now a faint grumble like a storyteller clearing his throat for the next yarn. The bakery's lanterns seemed to brighten in compensation, their light gilding the edges of every surface, turning droplets on the window ledges into prisms of rainbow. The door flew open then, not with a creak, but with a whoosh of displaced air and the faint jingle of pixie bells, as Peter Pan from J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan made his entrance. He didn't so much walk in as alight, his bare feet touching the rug only after a brief hover, green tunic sodden and plastered to his lithe frame, oak leaves and pine needles tangled in his tousled auburn hair like badges from a forest skirmish. Rain sluiced from his shoulders, but his face bore the irrepressible grin of boyhood eternal, eyes sparkling with the mischief of one who had outflown tempests and duelled shadows under moonlit canopies. His dagger, sheathed at his belt, was more prop than peril now, and he carried no burdens save the invisible weight of Neverland's endless tomorrows. Peter shook himself like a young pup, sending droplets arcing through the air to sizzle faintly on the hearthstones. Blasted squall! It's enough to soak a fairy's wings, he exclaimed, his voice a bright trill that cut through the room's hush without jarring it, laced with the lilt of an English nursery rhyme. He scanned the space with the keen eye of an explorer charting new isles, alighting on the treats with a whistle. But oh, what treasures! Smells like adventure baked into every crumb. Hello there, ladies. Mind if a lost flyer joins the party? I've been dodging thunderbolts since tea time, but this looks like the second star to the right. Spotting Alice and Dorothy, he bounded over, perching on the arm of Dorothy's chair with the balance of one born to treetops, his damp boots dangling harmlessly. The witch, undeterred by his energy, met his gaze with a knowing arch of brow, as if she had baked for wayward boys since the dawn of tales. From a lower shelf she retrieved a basket woven of willow twigs, enchanted to never snag, and filled it with Neville and broomstick biscuits. These were slender marvels, dough twisted into the form of besom handles with bristle ends of piped royal icing, dipped in a glaze of wildflower honey that gleamed amber in the firelight, and dusted with fairy dust, sugar crystals that caught the light in fleeting sparkles, dissolving on the tongue with the effervescent pop. Each bite evoked the rush of flight, the honey's floral depth giving way to notes of heather and thyme, a subtle lift that made one's spirit feel unburdened, ready for soar without the fall. Paired with the biscuits was a tankard of warm milk, frothed to creaminess and spiced with fresh nutmeg grated tableside, its surface dusted with cinnamon hearts that floated like autumn leaves on a pond, infused with a charm to cradle dreams of endless skies. Peter grabbed a biscuit from the witch's basket, biting in with a gleeful yah. The honey dripped, coating his fingers, evoking lagoon picnics with the lost boys. Like fairy cake, he grinned, settling cross-legged by the fire. In Neverland we'd soar through storms, Wendy mending sails, John steering. He shared hushed tales of playful sword fights and mermaid songs. Alice asked about shadow sewing in rain. Dorothy nodded, her travels echoing his. Soft laughter blended with the rain's fade and oven's hum, their voices a gentle weave, as the storm-hushed stars peeked through velvet dark. The witch drew brioche loaves, cherry-studded and glazed from the oven, their scent thickening the air. The door creaked, admitting Winnie the Pooh, his red shirt damp, paws muddy. He wiped them carefully, humming a blustery tune, eyes blinking at the warmth. The bear shuffled in, a plush figure from the 100-acre wood, drawn by the bakery's glow. Pooh closed the door with a paw that lingered on the knob, as if assuring himself it wouldn't vanish like a popped balloon, then stood for a long moment absorbing the scene. The fire's glow played across his golden fur, turning it to burnished honey, and he tilted his head, processing the gathering with the deliberate pace of one who pondered the universe, one rumbly in his tumbly at a time. "Oh, bother," he rumbled at last, his voice a comfortable basso that vibrated like distant bees in a hive. "It's ever so wet out there in the wood tonight. The rain's making puddles big as a rabbit's vegetable patch, and I thought perhaps a little explore might lead to something nice, like a smackerel of something." His gaze drifted to the counter, lingering on the jars with a hopeful squint, then to the group by the fire where Peter waved with sticky fingers. "Hello, everyone. Is this the sort of place where one might sit and think about very important things, like how honey never gets tired of being sweet?" The witch, arranging berries for compote, felt warmth for Pooh, whose simple quests for honey and friends defined his gentle adventures. With a nod, she offered a reed platter bearing honey cauldron pots, oversized oat cookies shaped as cauldrons, brimming with honey custard and topped with marzipan bees with spun sugar wings that dissolved into sweet buzzes. The wild honey-evoked sunlit combs dripping slowly. A teapot of chamomile linden tea steamed beside, its vapours humming of blooming hives. Pooh took the platter with a grateful "thank you," waddling to a quilt-piled booth, sinking in with a contented sigh. He dipped a paw into the custard, savouring its clover acacia warmth, banishing the storm's chill. "This is thinking honey," he mumbled, making everything bouncy inside. He shared tales of the wood, misguided expeditions, Tigger's bounces, Piglet's calmed worries. Peter suggested heffalump hunts, Alice mused on bee balloons, Dorothy likened it to scarecrow tales. Their talk, laced with Pooh's hums, rose gently, blending with the rain's soft fade. With the arrival of Pooh, the bakery reached a fullness that felt predestined, its atmosphere now a living thing, breathing, holding, nurturing. The witch circulated unobtrusively, topping off teacups with infusions that adapted to each sipper's need. A dash more chamomile for Alice's lingering queries, cloves for Dorothy's hearth longing, nutmeg for Peter's flighty fancies, linden for Pooh's reflective pauses. The oven's heat permeated deeper, loosening knots in the shoulders and minds alike, while the fireplace settled to a bed of glowing coals, their heat a steady pulse sinking with heartbeats slowed by the night's embrace. Outside, the drizzle persisted but gentled, stars winking through rents in the clouds like eyes peering from behind curtains, the moon a sliver of pale cheese in the sky. It was nearing the witching hour, though in this place, hours were suggestions, not strictures, when the door admitted its final guest, ushered in by a swirl of wind-blown leaves that skittered across the threshold like errant confetti. Anne Shirley, from Lucy Maud Montgomery's Anne of Green Gables, stepped across with the dramatic flair of one who saw every entrance as a stage cue. Her carrot-top mane of red hair windswept into a halo of frizz and tangles, secured precariously by a ribbon the colour of dried roses. Her sprigged muslin dress, high-collared and ankle-length, bore the patina of Avonlea lanes, mud at the hem, a tear mended with hasty stitches, and she carried a small reticule bulging with dog-eared volumes of poetry. Her freckled cheeks flushed from the dash through the downpour. Anne's grey-green eyes, sharp as new pencils yet soft as fog over the Barry Pond, took in the scene with a gasp that was half breath, half prayer. Oh, what a romantical tempest! To be out in it is poetry in motion, but to find this haven at its heart is pure prose turned to ambrosia, Anne breathed, her voice a cascade of imagery, rich with the cadence of Prince Edward Island's rolling hills and the lilt of her own boundless fancy. She hung her damp shawl on a peg by the door, where it dripped into a brass pan like a metronome to the rain, then curtsied to the room at large. Good evening, kind souls and spectral scents. I've been wool-gathering by the brook, imagining dryads dancing in the drops, but the storm whispered of spiced warmth and kindred company, so here I am, a pilgrim at the feast. Spotting the gathering, her face lit with the dawn of discovery. Alice, with your wonderland whimsy. Dorothy, bearer of ruby roads. Peter, eternal sprite of skies. And Pooh, philosopher of pots. It's like the best kind of Avonlea quilting bee, all patches of story sewn with threads of storm. The witch, catching Anne's poetic spark, paused her cream whisking to prepare a welcome. On a gold-rimmed china plate she set kindred spirit ghost meringues, airy peaks of ivory that crumbled into rosewater sweetness, dusted with pearlescent sugar shimmering like dew. Shaped like spectral veils, they carried enchantments of belonging. A cup of lavender hot chocolate, rich with cacao nibs and bergamot, steamed beside them, evoking Green Gables herb gardens. Anne took the plate reverently, settling on a window stool where rain traced delicate patterns. This is belonging baked, she sighed, nibbling a meringue. Its floral burst recalled walks with Diana, lifting her dreams to calm glides. The chocolate's warmth soothed, lavender weaving through cocoa like a starry lullaby. Its kindred spirits by the fire sharing dreams. Her voice joined the group's harmony, a gentle blend of tales, Peter twirling biscuits like broomsticks, Pooh musing on ghosts' tastes, Alice posing flavour riddles, Dorothy sharing harvest dances, and Anne weaving poetic threads, fireflies writing dusk sonnets. The witch glided among them, refilling mugs, her soft hum a bass note to their chorus, laughter rippling softly amid the fire's crackle and rain's fading whisper. As the night settled into quiet, the witch presented her final gift. The witch's harvest platter, a U-board brimming with tailored treats. At its heart lay miniature delights, cauldron cookies for Alice's riddles, cottage-shaped scones for Dorothy's home, honey-glazed broom twists for Peter's flights, honey pots for Pooh's simplicity, and rose-veiled ghost puffs for Anne's poetry. Around them, pumpkin tarts with flaky crusts, blackberry thumbprint cookies, gingerbread stars, and orange-zested fudge completed the spread. A samovar offered spiced cocoa, honeyed lemon, and non-alcoholic mulled wine, each sip sealing shared tales. The group savoured slowly, passing the platter with care, bites sparking soft murmurs. This tart tastes of meadows. The fudge hugs like a mane. Peter spoke of Wendy's lamplit stories. Pooh mused on quiet wood corners. Anne wove Tennyson into bear hunts. The storm hushed, stars mirroring the lantern's glow. Embers warmed cheeks, the air thick with sweetness, breaths slowing in harmony. One by one they sought their nooks, the bakery transforming into a dormitory of dreams. Alice curled in her window seat, a slim volume of nonsense verse open on her lap, pages turning slower as sleep tugged. Dorothy in her armchair, blanket drawn to chin, ruby slippers kicked off to warm by the irons. Peter sprawled on cushions piled like clouds, dagger sheathed and forgotten, his crow a sleepy echo. Pooh in his booth, paws folded over a contented middle, hum fading to snuffles. Anne on her stool, head pillowed on folded arms, reticule clutched like a talisman of tomorrows. The witch dimmed the lanterns to a twilight murmur, her form retreating to a rocker by the back, locket pulsing softly as she knit, a scarf of endless yarn perhaps, or the threads of fate rewoven gentle. In this cradle of quiet, the Halloween evening consummated its peace, the bakery a vessel holding safe the night's gathered wonders. Worries, like raindrops on a leaf, had slipped away unnoticed. Gratitude lingered, viscous as cooled caramel, sweet on the tongue of memory. The world beyond slept under starlight's watchful eye, but here, in the heart of the storm's hush, dreams bloomed, tales unfinished, friendships eternal, comforts profound. And as breaths evened to the tide of slumber, the rainy day witch's bakery stood sentinel, its magic a promise. Come again, weary one, when next the rains call. For in its embrace, every ending was but a pause before the sweetest awakening.